Welcome to The Free Radical, presented by Avenue for the Arts. The Free Radical is a collective of local artists. Here are a few of their stories. Walking into Stephanie Chisholm's room, I saw the typical. A bed in the corner nicely made, pictures adorning the walls, and small trinkets in the dresser reflecting her artistic personality. As I took a step deeper, I noticed that the dresser and a small sheet were hiding a room inside of a room, a personal workspace, a space for ideas, a corner for reflection in a world of creative potential. Tucked on the other side of the dresser was Stephanie's art studio. As a senior attending Kendall, Stephanie lay claim to one room, and in this room, she has fit her life. At a small desk in the corner she works, laying mark upon mark. Turning towards me, she says, "I feel very attached to the process of art making. It really does help me sort out the way I approach my everyday experience." Stephanie goes on to describe her experience growing up as an artist, seeing herself transform through the art she has produced. She says, "I definitely have themes that have appeared throughout the last few years, mostly move-oriented, change-oriented, things dealing with identity. This identity she speaks of stretches beyond the singular identity of self to the communities she exists within." Stephanie tells me a story. "This weekend I was walking and a man rode by on his bike yelling and shouting. And I wondered, with everything that has happened in his life, what led up to the moment where this man is like, 'Now is the time of my day when I'm going to get on my bike and I'm going to shout things.' That's what I bring back here, that guy on that bike." It can be seen when looking at Stephanie's work. She's in the midst of sorting it out. Within each frame lives an individual, vastly different from their neighbor. Studying the frames, a relationship forms connecting each unique being to one another. Describing this connection, Stephanie says, "Imagine a necklace with a bunch of beads on it, and then laying it down and having a big pile of beads. It seems disconnected and disjointed. But if you were to pull it, then it would become sequential again." Stephanie's work as a whole contains a mystic beauty derived from its ability to connect within the chaos. Each frame exists autonomously, yet builds sequentially. As I view Stephanie's work, I can tell that she is simply attempting to pull the beads. Welcome to the studio of Miss Loralee Grace. In the middle she stands surrounded by pieces in progress, tubes of paint, lasagna noodles turned art utensils, and color, lots and lots of color. The multiple paintings on the floor and on the register and consuming the dresser make it difficult for me to maneuver and take photos. Looking at her vast collection of abstracts, Loralee says, "Abstracts are spontaneous. I don't plan them out, they just happen. If I don't like them, I just put them into piles and shove them off. I'll come back to it and scrape it off, or I'll cover it up, or maybe I'll decide I like it." Some of her paintings contain layers that she has added to for years, yearning to still be resolved, while others were brought to resolution in only a few strokes. She shows me a few and tells me some of the things she loves. The peaks of one speak to her, or the colors derive an emotion. "I love it when strange things happen, like when I apply paint and something crazy happens," Loralee tells me as she holds up a painting, pointing out a unique feature. "As I was squeezing it out of the tube, it just went shwoop at the end. It brings a little bit of joy to my heart when something weird like that happens." Scanning the abstracts, a thick black gritty paint begins to become apparent in a number of the paintings. Loralee explains, "We went to a black beach when we were in Iceland, and immediately when I saw the sand, I had this idea of these crazy paintings. It is then the landscape of color at my feet become more than texture on canvas. It gave birth to a story resonating in Loralee's heart." 2 summers previous, Loralee and her husband Phil lived in Iceland for a month and a half. During the day, they would work at a cafe, and by evening they would explore the beauty and wonder that engulfed their presence. She told me stories of drinking water from fresh streams, and showed me multiple watercolors of beautiful landscapes. Throughout our apartments, remnants of this trip lay scattered. Rocks and sand and photographs, all telling the story of personal transformation through an intimate connection with this pure landscape. It is now that I look at her paintings, that I see the mountains, that I see the streams, and that I see the wildlife represented in color and texture. When speaking of her work, Laura Lee says, "For the viewer, my hope would be that they would be intrigued enough to look closer, and be delighted in the different details and strange happenings they find on the surface. That they would slow down a little and enjoy the colors and the textures." I would go so far as to say this would be similar advice she would give for those who may want to visit her beloved Iceland. She would want them to explore the unique landscape, get lost in its color, and delight in all of its glorious details. Knowing that many of us will never have the opportunity to soak in the splendor of this beautiful country, we must appreciate her work, for it's the closest we may ever come. This has been but a page in the story of Grand Rapids artists. My goal has been to peel back a singular layer, expose us to a small amount of the greater picture that lies beneath. The artists in our community have come together to present ideas, emotions, concepts, joy and pain, and life experience through multiple mediums. We do not do this for prize. It is done for collaboration. In this venue rests the soul of our community. It is up to us to individually peel back the layers and discover who we are. May we not be defined by the powerful, but instead be defined by our dialogue, and be defined by the way we interact as partners and friends and neighbors. I leave it up to you to discover what these artists are presenting about abundance, and work towards a common understanding to the question of what we will do with our abundance.